The upper left in the red. He is Patrick McElwaney. It's PattyMac.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom right for Team Starlight Twinkle. It is Cham. I love that there's a team called Starlight Twinkle. I think that is just amazing. It's just incredible.
It sparks so much joy. And
it sparks so much joy.
It sparkles so much joy. And they were a meme team. Like, on top of this, they were a team that was trying to play in the WTO qualifiers last year. And you look at it, it's like, okay, it's a bunch of people, players from the Chinese server that you've never heard of. They're like, maybe GM, some of them, but it's kind of a clan. It was maybe meme team's not fair, but certainly not a competitive big team. And then all of a sudden, Oliveira wins the World Championship. And it's like, well, Starlight Twinkle, they signed Cham. They signed Spirit. They signed someone else recently. I forget who it was, but suddenly they're a real team. And they're committing real money into the scene. They're supporting these players. And I guess thank you, Oliveira, for winning the World Championship and making Starlight Twinkle less of a meme.
Yeah. And another interesting thing that happened is, well, part of the reason why Spirit was a free agent is that Dragon, Phoenix Gaming, and Kaitsa Gaming merged together. Cham was looking for a team. Spirit was looking for a team. And yeah, like you said, now Starlight Twinkle is very competitive in the World Team League, in the premier team league that we've got. And it's pretty cool to see. Now, as we get into this series here, we got to talk about what we could see out of this. So these are both players that play very uniquely, very unique breed of StarCraft 2, and they both kind of stick to their guns a little bit in regards to that. PattyMac, he is a player that in PvZ has come up with some interesting builds. He loves 3-gate glaives into double Stargate Phoenix play. He's a very kind of unique player in general, whereas Cham loves, you know, like Swarm Host Roach Ravager styles. He is a player that really does like to be aggressive, just in general.
Yeah, you talk about that PattyMac style, the 3-gate glaives into something else. My favorite part about this PattyMac style, and I know it's not on purpose, but it's just how it literally always goes. He's going to run across the map if he goes for the style with 3 Adepts. And we'll talk about the layer in just a second, but he runs across the map with 3 Adepts, or 4 Adepts. He will lose 1 as he recalls, and that's just how it goes. Like, it's the oddest thing. But we have very different builds coming out of these players here. That is a 3-minute lair coming out of Cham, and on the other side, Dark Templar or Dark Shrine is on the way. So what do you think this is? I mean, I was gonna say maybe Queen Ling, but we see a Roachborn coming down. We're only on, and we are on 2 gas. Yeah, so Cham, we've seen a couple Nidus plays this tournament, but none of this variant, at least not yet.
No, and I don't think this is going to be a Nidus play. If you look at the upgrade tab, you might notice something at the 330 mark. We're well past that point now, is conspicuously missing. There's no Ling speed. Cham, he is a very, like I said, he sticks to his own guns, and he's also a bit of a build order crafter, bit of an engineer when it comes to exploring and inventing new builds. He's come up with a new build recently, which pairs very well against Twilight Council openers specifically. That is a quick layer, quick roach speed build. It does extremely well against any kind of Twilight Council build. Like I said, specifically, it is going to do very well against Resonating Glaives because you have roach speed, but it is also going to do extremely well against DT drop because you've got a quick Overseer. And PattyMac, he instantly morphs an Archon. This is going to tell Cham exactly what this build is. Lings probably should just be sent back, just use the roaches to deal with this. But honestly, in terms of build order setups, this is a really effective startup for Cham. Oh man, Cham's actually building a ton of units. He's going to go aggressive with this.
Yeah, this is interesting. I was going to say, you know, on the flip side, PattyMac is aware that he's scouted early. He sees the roaches, he sees the Overseer, so he only warps in 2 Dark Templar, right? He only gets this 1 Archon, and that is some level of efficiency. The goal of this, of course, is to get damage done. But if you know you're most likely not going to, like you just know this without almost a shadow of a doubt, only getting the 1, getting some Overlords, and then just really not spending your gas on that Endeavor, that is maybe a little spark of life, a little bit of joy that PattyMac might be able to find into this. But with all the roaches running across, I feel like you kind of want those Archons. You want as much as you can, and PattyMac, it doesn't seem like he's identified this. He's got a RoboBay on the way. He's got a Forge. He's probing up. He's got extra fire. Like, he is building this game as if he thinks this is going to go 5 more minutes, and instead, there are a bunch of roaches going to hit his base, and he has what, like four Stalkers, 3 Adepts? That is just not enough to defend at all.
Yeah. No, it's not even close to enough to defend. Battery overcharge does get popped immediately, and a nice force field will kind of slow down the roaches, but it buys him about a quarter of a second, and DT is going to warp in. It will be spotted by the Overseer. Cham, he's just going to run PattyMac over in this game number 1. There is a disruptor on the way, and the idea was correct from PattyMac, but it is not going to be enough. We're going to see the probes getting pulled. They will all go down. If Cham attacks up into the natural and the disruptor gets a massive shot, maybe Cham can't end the game right now. But even if he doesn't, he can absolutely drone up, he can tech up, and he can be very happy with his position. And to be honest, there's no reason whatsoever for him to do anything else. And look at this, he even dodges a disruptor shot. Good job from PattyMac to try and get that big shot, maybe equalize the losses a little bit. But now, I mean, look at the units lost. This is ludicrous, actually.
And that's a lot to a little. And it's funny, generally, when we look at PvZ, if it's going to be ludicrous like that, it's the other way around. You know, Zerg they're on 80 workers, and they're sacrificing a bunch of units. They're losing banelings and things. Seeing the Protoss down by about 2,500 resources at the 730 mark is, yeah, that's really rough. And one thing I do enjoy, although, oh man, Cham canceled it. He had Burrow and Roach Burrow on the way, but I guess he realized that, you know, I got the 3rd base. That's going to be enough. I don't need to really lean into round 3 of the aggression because he keeps the 3rd base denied. And, oh, Disruptor's trying to get on top of these roaches. Decent splits for now. Cham! Oh, he gets a Disruptor, and he loses, like, what was that, 1 roach?
2 roaches. That was a brilliant defense from Cham right there. That was actually,
oh man,
that was immaculate. I cannot believe that, because he kind of got jumped and he got into this awkward position where he kind of had to kill one of the disruptors, but the split was magnificent. Kind of overshot where PattyMac was expecting the disruptor shot. Oh, that's a biggie. Now, PattyMac needs about 3 or 4 more of those to get back into the game, but that is a really good start.
That's fast. 3 or 4. No, we're like, it's 9 or 10. He needs so much here. But that really was some Final Destination stuff, right? It's like, oh, well, you know, you dodged death. You got me. Okay, we're good. And then immediately, like, as soon as the cooldown's off, it's like, well, okay, I got it. I got the roaches. I got the lings. We're going to be fine. Around the corner, though, there is vision there. That's not going to get that much done. But I love what Cham's doing. Again, there's a hive on the way. The biles. Okay, you're not going to get this. But with a hive on the way, this timing that PattyMac has where he can maybe find some value it's rapidly closing. Vipers, they put an end to what PattyMac wants to do.
Yeah, they really do. Disruptor shot was not available. It was still on cooldown for another couple of seconds. Cham recognized the danger there, though, and he was still able to pull back. 4 Vipers. Yeah, that's going to be... If you charge those up to 150 energy, there is absolutely no way that PattyMac is going to get enough disruptors up to prevent the abducts from coming on in, and it's not like PattyMac can afford the Templar Archives. Well, that's another good shot right there. How many units was that? 3 Ravagers, 4 Roaches, and a Ling. Okay, yeah, you might have been right. It might be like he needs that about 5 more times.
All right, so Steadfast,
4 more times.
Let's do some math here, right? Cham is up about 40 armies in the line.
Yeah.
All right, if we say, okay.
That's not nice split.
If we say each of those balls going off is about 10 army supply, he needs 4 to bring the army of Cham back to some level of normalcy, and then, well, he needs a lot more than that to deal with the economy. That being said, Cham, you know, is starting to take more losses. That gap is all back to even now. It's not 2,500. Okay, Steadfast, technically it's not gone. There's 100 resources in the difference. So, technically not gone, but yeah, it is so much closer. Wait, did I see a Swarm Host on the production tab? Is that... Okay, it's only 1.
You did see the accidental Swarm Host, yes.
Cham.
This is the timing we're talking about, though. Oh, Parasitic Bomb. You know what? I like that a lot because it says, piss off, get out of here. There's no shield battery that he can run to prevent the hull damage, and here comes the massive army from Cham. PattyMac throws out a bunch of disruptor balls. None of them gets a connection. Vipers don't even actually have to use their abducts there. Now they use them on the Archons. Would love to have seen another parasitic bomb on that War Prism. Disruptor drop is going to get crushed here. PattyMac honestly played really damn well and did everything he could have possibly done from that position. But he was so dead after his third Nexus went down. So dead.
Yeah, that fight that Cham took was probably the worst possible version of that fight he was ever going to take. I mean, he dodges all the disruptors, then he still spends Viper energy on the disruptors anyways. A bunch of Banelings, I think actually they hit the rocks, so they're just attacking the Archons, and you're like, well, it doesn't matter. Cham could have just A-moved, and he probably would have won that game. There was only, I think it was, 3 disruptors. You're just not finding the value. That game was decided at the third base, even if PattyMac tried to fight his way back a little bit more. But if you're a PattyMac fan, maybe you're looking at that game one and saying, well, you know, if the guy I'm rooting for doesn't lose his third base at like the whenever he did, if he doesn't take that much damage, if he doesn't hard counter whatever PattyMac wants to go for, maybe I like his chances. Maybe this is going to be a little bit better. But we're going to have to see it because PattyMac, he is that architect. He has all those funky builds, but Cham, at least in this game one, is proving more than up to the task.
Yeah, but basically, well, not basically, how they were playing after the loss of the third base, PattyMac impressed me a lot. Mm-hmm. He was in a position where he wins maybe, I would say, less than 1% of the time. I think it's fair to say, but he did all the things that could have brought him back into that game. You know, if he finds a couple more of those big disruptor shots, you never know. All it takes is Cham getting thrown off. I shouldn't say all it takes because it takes a lot. But if a couple of those disruptor shots land, Cham gets maybe distracted, loses focus of the bigger picture. There's a way for Cham to lose that advantage and let PattyMac back into the game. So I was impressed with how PattyMac played from pretty much an unplayable position.
Yeah, certainly. And I feel like we've seen a lot of 1-2s as well. Lots of series, kind of one player opens, and then we saw that with DNS and Gerald today. Maybe we're going to get another one here, but for now, it's game 2. It's Gressfon. It's the best map in the pool, and we're going to get right on into it. And in the upper left, in the red, he's for Starlight Twinkle, my favorite team name. It's Cham.
And his opponent. Spawning down in the bottom right, it is PattyMac. And yeah, I gotta say, I was thoroughly impressed with PattyMac. The War Prism speed, the War Prism micro, the multitasking. Like, if we see that game on even footing, this is a completely different series, you know? Like, if PattyMac can get into the mid game on even footing and can keep Cham from catching him off guard, that is, well, I'm more worried for Cham, to be honest. And it's weird to say that after a player went up 1-0. But we do also have to say that's not the only weapon Cham has in his toolkit. Yes, it's a funky build. Yes, it was a build that kind of hard countered what his opponent was doing, but PattyMac still didn't get the read. And Cham, like I said, has a lot of weapons in his arsenal.
Yeah, and I think, though, when you look at this, the other way to look at that, right, is Cham knew he was so far, like, he was ridiculously far ahead. And, you know, credit to PattyMac for hitting those disruptor shots, for looking for the value. But I think he stays in that game in part because this is do or die Sunday. This is the final game. Every single map matters here. And it's so easy if you're Cham to get yourself in this kind of mental state of, I know this game's over. Like, it doesn't matter how many of these shots I take. I can play sloppy. And I'm not saying that's where Cham was going, but it is very easy to ascribe a lot of that, okay, some awkward disruptor shots, whatever, to this understanding that really almost doesn't matter what Cham does. That game is going to be over. So I look forward to seeing what we're going to get here in this game. I think Cham absolutely. This might be bad news for Cham. PattyMac has been looking good. He's hitting that shots off, but also this is a game where the stress is back, and Cham, he knows he's one map away from moving on to the playoffs. And losing Cham, much like we talked about, losing some of the other players, losing Max Packs, for example, in this tournament, Cham's the reigning Latin American champion. He took down Special in 2 separate series in the DreamHack Masters Latin America Winter Regional. Losing him here, especially considering his run at Katowice, that would be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, it would be a tremendous surprise. And I think everyone would be a little bit sad if that happened, but at the same time, if it paved a way for PattyMac to make a little bit of a rise of his own, because he is a very good player that a lot of people don't know much about, that would be really cool. Now, PattyMac, I mentioned this, he's kind of the crafter of his own builds as well. This is the PattyMac opener right here. The 3-gate into the Adept, and it's going to be a really interesting setup here. Cham, by the way, getting a lot of lings.
Yeah.
What is he... Is he all-inning? Because if he is, the 3-gate is such a good setup against this. However, you got to be careful. You can't have these Adepts out in the middle of the map against a massive number of lings. But, I mean, this is 25 lings. This is like... Oh, hang on. PattyMac. Oh, he's going to shade forward. But, yeah, I mean, that's too many Adepts. That's too many Adepts to actually jump with this number of lings. PattyMac does need to be careful, and he'll need to be quick on the recall, if anything.
That's what I told you. With this move out, you move up, you move forward with the Adepts, you recall, and you lose exactly 1 Adept. So there we go. 1 Adept goes down.
No.
2. Oh, okay, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. It's 2. But even still, he gets the scout here. That's the important thing. The 3rd base canceled on the other side. And this is a little bit awkward, right? There are some probes, there are some stalkers on the map, but you can reinforce the wall. And it's not like there's a Bailey nest here or something. There's not a lot that you can really do to bust through this. It's unfortunate that we saw... Oh, well, you don't want to be up. PattyMac, what are you doing?
PattyMac has misread this game. He did not realize how much Cham committed to these lanes. And this may actually be Cham once again kind of getting the read on PattyMac. The thing is, PattyMac on paper had everything he needed to be in a great position. Cham effectively did a bunch of economic damage to himself by building those lings, but PattyMac didn't realize that his opponent committed so hard to the lings, and he not only lost the 3rd base, he didn't cancel it, so he lost all those resources. He lost a bunch of the Adepts, took a lot of damage, and then the big problem moment for him was when he moved onto the map once again and got fully surrounded, lost every Adept. Now Cham is massively ahead in this game.
Yeah, and PattyMac, we're not seeing a lot of evolution here. He still has this idea about what he wants to go for, because that PattyMac build that you talked about, you don't get a robo. It's 3-gate. You take a 3rd base behind that, and then you move into double Stargate. It's generally double Stargate Phoenix. We're going to see a Fleet Beacon on the way, so this is the evolution.
Okay.
It will be, I'm assuming, carriers coming out of this, and I mean, I get that's kind of good news for PattyMac. Phoenix do not deal with lings at all. Carriers do, but I mean, they are so far from coming out on the map right now.
So the prevailing idea behind what PattyMac does in general with his play is that he makes it so that you can't deal with his Adepts with lings. So the fact that Cham has already gained the advantage there is a big deal. Now, it's going to be Void Rays coming on out, and that will help deal with the Roaches, but this is going to be another cancel on this base. The Adepts, they will get surrounded. They will eventually shade out. But, oh, Cham, no, just kill the 3rd. Just kill the 3rd and chill. Just kill the 3rd and chill. You don't need to do anything too wild. I do like that he moves forward with the Roaches and then just lets the lings finish this off. Because, I mean, Roaches are almost always going to trade effectively against Adepts. Unless the Adepts can isolate them, and that's not been a possibility. PattyMac. Okay, now that the Void Ray pops out, this will finally get driven back. But Cham is unbelievably far ahead in this game number 2.
Yeah, and PattyMac, by losing all those pylons and losing the Perspective Nexus as well, is incredibly supply blocked. He's fixed it now, but he wasn't really using the double Stargate play. He got 1 Void Ray out. He's at 2 now, I think, as he completes that shade, but luckily the lings were not surrounding, so he's kind of okay there. And I almost wonder whether by showing the Void, okay, so he's moving to carriers behind this, I almost wonder whether he was kind of attempting to force an over-response like Spire and lack of units on the ground, but there are more than enough Roaches and Queens and Lings on the map for Cham at this point. These Adepts, they got to cancel their shades. I mean, I guess carriers are joining the fray, and with +1 and you give PattyMac 50 minutes, maybe? Maybe he's able to turtle this out, but at this point, I mean, we're kind of in the same situation game one. PattyMac can make some great moves from this point, but he's just too far behind.
I mean, oh wow, Cham, by the way, he way overbuilt Overlords here.
Man,
he went up to 200 supply of free supply, which is not an efficient way to go about things, but ultimately, considering the game state, it might not matter too much. PattyMac going to re-engage on top of the roaches, noticing that Cham's a little bit separated off and just looking for an opportunity to trade these adepts out as efficiently as possible. So here's the situation where PattyMac can actually win this game. Cham misreads, thinks that it is going to be double Stargate Phoenix or double Stargate Void Ray, doesn't build a Spire, which he hasn't, and PattyMac manages to keep the carriers hidden up to like 4 or 6 and +1. Cham commits in with a bunch of Hydras, and you know, maybe the carriers take a really good fight, and then all of a sudden it's a much more even game. This is very different from the Bly versus Strange game number 1, where Bly had a bunch of Corruptors versus carriers. Hydras, they suck versus carriers when you've got an upgrade disadvantage. Oh, but he finds a High Templar at the third base. That's a really nice pickoff. How many did he kill? He killed 2 of them. Oh boy.
And they get 4 drones, but yeah, this is pretty much all the map control that PattyMac had is now going to go down. And you know, Steadfast, I'm with you. This idea that, oh, you get up to like 6 carriers, something. And in fairness, he's at 4 right now. And Hydras are surprisingly bad against everything that, Hydras are surprisingly bad against the carriers, but at this point, I worry that even if we are on 4 to 6 carriers, 100, 200 supply often is quite better than 120 supply.
Yeah, and we're not at +2 on the carriers. We don't even have the 5th and 6th carrier on the way just yet. There's not a ton of Hydras in this particular army, but there are more and more joining the fight. 31 Hydras on the field right now. Now, potentially, this is almost on paper the worst thing he could do is to split these Hydras up, because then it gives the opportunity for the carriers to focus all of their power together and maybe get a victory against one side of the army.
Steadfast, are you ready for the absolute Protoscopium right now? Right? Here's the winning move. You snipe down all the Dropper Lords before they unload with all the carriers, and then, it's not going to happen, but...
I mean, if he could have, that's the thing. It's a risky maneuver from Cham, and the fact that he sees the carriers and still goes for it is extraordinarily bold. And that will actually... Hang on.
Wait a minute here.
Dropper Lords low? Okay, they are going to all unload. But this will allow PattyMac to clean up pretty much this entire army in the main base. And if he doesn't take damage in the 3rd and natural, there's a chance. But Lings are already into the natural. The 3rd base is in some huge trouble. The static defense does buy a little bit of time. I mean... well, this is a lot of carriers. They did have their +2 weapons denied. PattyMac is going to hold. This is about the best case scenario he could have ever hoped for, and he still loses 14 probes, still loses the Nexus, does have Storm now finishing up, but Cham is still on a good economy, still has Hive on the way, and the Spire is finishing up shortly.
I mean, the supplies have really equalized here, Steadfast. Do we have any Templars? No, okay, so there is no Storm with this army, but if you're PattyMac right now, you got to Death Push. You don't have an option. You're on 2 bases. You only have 46 probes, but you do have 8 carriers, a couple Void Rays, and eventually a Storm, right? A High Templar is going to be joining this army. But that is, Hydra sucks, Steadfast. You're absolutely right, but there are so many of them here.
Yeah.
That's not going to work out. Yeah.
Not even close to enough of them.